hunters friend or foe to land brokers?
It is a mixed bag. So when someone asks me to evaluate a piece of property, the thing that we always do is I list the positive attributes of the property, and then I list the challenging attributes. And that's what I'll do for hunters. I'll tell you the positive attributes of hunters, and then I'll tell you the challenging attributes. So on a positive side, if you have your property leased to hunters, they're excellent lookouts. They're the best security guards you'll ever have on a big piece of land. They keep it locked up. They keep other people from going on it. A lot of them will put up cameras so they'll know when somebody's on the property. It's amazing what they do as far as like trails and keeping those clean. And I'll never forget, there was a trail on the border of my property, and we would have coon hunters, which those are dog and nighttime hunters, and not the same. Deer hunters are much better than raccoon hunters. And so they would come at 2 a.m. The kids would be asleep, and we're like, did not like them, dogs barking and everything. But they had this trail system that was on the boundary of our acreage. And then we had this incredible ice storm, and all these trees fell down, and I was so happy because the trail was locked down. There were so many trees. There was no way that these hunters would ever use that trail again, so I wouldn't have to worry about the nighttime hunting. Those sons of guns cleared out that. I mean, it was amazing. Like, I thought these were like lazy, backward country. The amount of effort they put into clearing this tree, I mean, it was like chainsaws, like crazy. They had that thing cleared out in a weekend. It blew my mind how nice the trail was right after, clean. And so we still had hunters that night. But overall, they keep the land clean. You'll never see any garbage on it, and they're good lookouts for the property. If you have any open areas or pasture, they'll keep those clean. So, those are all the positive things. I think people have a little bit of a misnomer. In Chatham County, the taxes are pretty low. That's what you can hope for. If you can get a hunter to pay, I don't know, like the going rate, depending on how good the property is, probably $25 an acre to up to like $50 an acre for a tract to hunt on. So if you can get the tax value, the annual tax, property tax on it, that's pretty good. Most of my people are getting about half of the tax value or property tax, but that's a good amount of money. Between $500 and $2,000 for the average property around here is not so bad. So it's a little bit of extra income. If we're selling the property, though, they're a big pain in the you-know-what. So this is the challenging attribute. I'd rather not. It's hunting season right now. I'd rather them not be out there. I mean, guns are blazing, risks, they're not, they don't want the property to sell. So a lot of times the hunters that will go out there, another broker comes out, another buyer comes out. You don't want this land. It's all cut over. There's a bunch of stumps in the back. Or there's a bunch of diesel fuel. They'll say anything they can because they don't want the property sold. This is their hunting land. Sometimes they've been hunting it 20, 40, 60 years. Sometimes they've been hunting it like multi-generations, and they're not excited that you decided to sell your property. So even though they've been looking after your property, I think after a while they get like perceived ownership. Like to such a degree. Last week I was up in Durham County, and I was walking the corners looking, to make sure I could find my iron, and a guy pulled up in a pickup on the roadside, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I don't like it to start out this way because I know what I'm doing. Luckily, I had already had this property listed, because if it wasn't listed, I have to remain confidential. I don't want to divulge the seller's business, and so I decided to give him the opportunity to change the way he asked the question. And so I said, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "I want to know what you're doing here." And I was like, "And who are you?" Because we have to establish what's going on. He's like, "I own the property." And I'm like, "Really? This is not going over well?" Because I know my sellers are out of state. They're California, matter of fact. And I was like, "Okay, so you own the property." And I was like, "So you own the property?" And he goes, "And who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm the land broker that's working for the sellers right now. And so now we have a change of direction. He goes, well, I lease the property. And I was like, okay, so we've gone from I own the property to I lease the property. And I said, oh, that's interesting. My sellers didn't tell me that they had a lease. Would you please provide that for me so I can divulge that to potential owners? He's like, well, I don't have anything in writing. And I was like, still, I would have thought they would have told me that. And he's like, well, actually, I lease it from their brother, which doesn't have anything to do with that. Like, I'm glad the brother was getting $1,000 a year, but he didn't have anything to do. So, and then he told me when I could access the property, and he would give me he would come and unlock it for me, and that doesn't go over real well. Unfortunately, I had already, one of my key pieces of equipment is bolt cutters. I had already cut all the chains because I know how this happens all the time. So they complicate things, and it could be a good buddy, and you're trying to help them out, and so you don't have anything in writing. You've actually made it worse. Like you're thinking that you're making it better by not having anything in writing. Having it in writing actually makes it better, that it's established. It shows a beginning. It shows an end. This handshake stuff really complicates it for the buyer. It complicates it for the seller. So nobody wants to do this. And I'm not anti-hunting, but if you have a hunter that's on your property and you're thinking about selling it, not only are you better having a lease in writing, but you're also you should also have some kind of liability insurance as well. That's just best policy. So, and no hunter wants to hear that they have to provide insurance and have a lease. It's just not how things have been done for such a long time, but that's the way things need to be done now. So if you are thinking about selling your property, don't tell Bobby and Joey it's okay for them to hunt it this year, but next year when somebody else owns it, it's not okay. It's better to stop it right now. It's only a few $100, and I need them to get their stands off of there, their equipment off of there, and I need the gates and the chains to be unlocked so people have free access to the property. So I'm not anti-hunting, but hunters are not beneficial to sellers.